Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Institute for Personal Development, Kriya Yoga Ashram, where total consciousness is the new frontier.
Kriya Yoga is union of the individual with the divine. Join us as we explore the practices to initiate this process.
Good morning. Welcome to the Voice of Yoga. Let's talk consciousness. I am your hostess, Lisa Winton, and with me is Kenny Toy, also known as Swami Jayananda, founder of the Institute for Personal Development, located here in Hampton, New Hampshire. Good morning, Swami. Thank you for being here today. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing pretty good today. How about you?
Well, I'm doing pretty good today, too. Thanks for asking. And we want to thank you all for tuning in. Today on The Voice of Yoga, we will talk about love as one of those all-encompassing words that means different things at different levels of awareness. In this show, we will focus on the spiritual understanding of divine love as a demonstrable principle and how it differs from a human feeling. Listen as we explore the omnipresence of divine love as the foundation of life itself. Divine love is the truth, and what humans fall in and out of is the world concept or imitation of this spiritual fact. Welcome to the Voice of Yoga. We are talking consciousness. Join the Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance to get the light in your soul and live in the divine creation of love. So, Swami, we thought we would celebrate Valentine's Day a little differently than we have in the past, and spending most of our time talking about this idea of divine love. What should we get out of that word divine love? What should it mean to us?
Well, divine love is really the essence of the divine creative principle, the light of all life. Love is the eternal state of changeless joy or bliss. It's the subjective realization of perfect loving by and as perfect love. Whereas human love is a mortal, objective concept about divine love, a thought about this divine idea.
Let's talk more about that. How do we know we're in this human love and not this divine love?
Well, the human love would be personal. If there is a me and someone external to myself, which would be objective, an objective state of being. The divine love would have to come from that understanding of oneness. There is but one divine life. It would be looking at itself, as itself, of itself, and to itself. It's a very subjective state of being.
So when you're talking about having this subjective realization of perfect loving, this is what you're talking about.
Yes, from that perspective, you would have had to have graduated from the belief in the many into the understanding of the one. There is but one divine life. Just like the title of today's show is Living in Awareness of Divine Love, means that we are aware of the spiritual light that permeates everything that is appearing on a corporeal sense level. We are not reacting or even to a certain extent believing in what is appearing in our corporeal senses at this level because we understand the difference between the perspectives. Spiritual sense, spiritual self is a belief in the one. It's an understanding of the one. And like we said in the opening, that's a demonstrable principle. That's a law. We should be proving that by our awareness of divine love. Where the proof would be shown would be in our corporeal sense experiences.
I guess I just need more clarification because if I, Lisa, try to come to this realization, isn't that personalizing the experience?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. If I personally, as a person, am trying to get the God experience, that becomes your barrier. And that's why in the Bible it tells us that we must put off the old man. We have to give up that separate sense of self that seems very real to us on a corporeal sense level, but in fact becomes a barrier to us seeing the truth of our being, which is that we are the expression of this larger sense of life. And this larger sense of life is invisible and intangible to us on a corporeal sense level. If we sow to the flesh, as it says in the Bible, we're in this false sense of existence. We're in this belief in the many. Whereas if we put off that false sense and we give up personal will, trying, striving, struggling, planning, forming thoughts and opinions based on the information that's coming to us on a corporeal sense level, we give all of that up and we let this one divine life, this one divine mind, have expression of itself through us, then that dissolves belief that I was a mortal being. And it reveals the truth that I am the expression of this larger sense of life. I'm the expression of an indestructible principle.
Well, you had said earlier that human love is a mortal, objective concept about divine love, a thought about the divine idea. Could you just talk a little bit more about that, what you mean by a thought about the divine idea?
Yeah, the entire human experience is really a man-made construction. The divine creation, which is found in Genesis 1, God makes everything and everything is very good. Then in Genesis 2, there's this mist that comes upon the earth, and then there's this secondary creation where God made Adam and Eve and the fall from Eden in the Bible, and all of that is really symbolism for this false sense of existence. And this secondary creation has different levels of consciousness that we experience in it. It's what we call now a thought loop. It's not the divine creation, because the divine creation is whole, it's complete, it's perfect, it's fulfilled. But it is this temporary, changing state of being, made of the same stuff thoughts are made of. It's invisible, but it's tangible. What has separated from unity manifests in half and leaves behind a complementary, unmanifested other part. As long as we believe in our experiences, as long as we believe that we are this finite mortal being, that's the only thing that gives it the semblance of any kind of power. Whereas the divine creation is a self-existent, changeless state of being. And like we say, the difference is one is visible and tangible, and the other is invisible and intangible.
All right, let's talk more about a statement that we have in the opening, spiritual understanding of divine love as a demonstrable principle. I want to talk about that, and then maybe after we can talk about how it does differ from a human feeling. So what does spiritual understanding mean to you?
Well, spiritual understanding is, just like we say in the title, living in awareness of divine love. There is this divine creation, the divine idea, the Word of God, however you want to describe that. It's right here and it's right now. And as long as we are aware of that, we invite that into our consciousness. Now, what is appearing on our corporeal sense level, like we say, is just our thought about it. But it's not just on a personal level, because thought also has a collective consciousness aspect to it. So there's my thought, and then there's also world thought. That entire dimension or realm is invisible but tangible. It's the world of thought, which is, as we will start to explain, is different than the world of idea, which is how the divine mind communicates in the absolute. Thoughts work in the rational. They work in the belief in two powers, the realms of the many. Now, everything is going to be contingent upon whether I sow to the flesh or I sow to the spirit. If I have fidelity to what is visible and tangible or invisible but tangible, then I sow to the flesh. I'm in this thought loop. I'm working with human conjecture. I'm not working with the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And so my thoughts will have the tendency to outpicture imperfections. But if I sow to the Spirit, if I know the invisible, intangible, divine omnipresence, and I allow it to express itself through me, then I'm thinking with divine mind, which holds the template for perfect creation. And when Spirit is cause, creation is perfect. And this, of course, must work in a way that it reveals itself, because what is appearing in my five senses is my thought. So the way that it works is it corrects my thought, but then it must outpicture as divine qualities manifesting in my experiences.
And that's the demonstrable part.
Right.
I see.
Must be able to prove the presence of this divine love.
And we can't do that humanly with human love.
Right. The mortal mind cannot bring forth the divine image. That's one of the things that we've really been talking about. The Bible tells us to repent. And the way in Christian Science they translate that is think differently. And so we have to find a different way of perceiving what it is that we're looking at. And so we graduate from our material senses and we cultivate spiritual sense. This was where they talk about the Christ. The Christ is the saving aspect of truth. The Christ is what makes the divine creation intelligible to human consciousness.
So, Swami, it seems like you just answered the next statement that's in our summary, which was divine love is the truth, and what humans fall in and out of is the world concept or imitation of this spiritual fact.
Yeah, like we say, human feelings are finite. They're changing. They're always changing. We're in this state of constant change, whereas divine love is the changeless state of being. Everything is changing on a human level is because we're not seeing the truth. We're looking at an approximation. We're looking at a thought about what's here. We're looking at a mental image, a concept that is appearing before our corporeal senses. It works on principle that like attracts like. And so we move towards what we think we want. We move away from what we don't want. And then typically what happens with that is even when we get what we want, we become rapidly dissatisfied and we fall prey to the nature of greed because it's not giving us what it is that we're really looking for. And what we're really looking for is to be whole, to be complete. And the only way that we can experience wholeness or completion is on a spiritual level of consciousness, by us assuming spiritual identity. And in that realization that I am whole, I am complete, you no longer are looking externally to yourself for anything.
Well, we're going to pause right here to hear a word from our sponsor. So listeners, we'll be back with you in just a few moments.
Snow. That's really cool. Or, it's like you wake up one morning, it's like, you know what? I'm tired.
Kriya Yoga Theory 2 is a unique and revolutionary practice and forum designed to facilitate the growth process in human development. Apotheosis is a real experience and has an evidence procedure. You cannot lead someone to permanent change by doing for them what they must do themselves. Personal accountability and responsibility are the foundation of Kriya Yoga Theory 2. You must be engaged and devoted. Prana kind of power brings virtue to overcome fear, wisdom to overcome ignorance, purpose to overcome selfishness, enthusiasm to overcome laziness. Kriya Yoga is a path of action, knowledge, and devotion. These sessions are a celestial positioning system to guide the individual into union with the divine. For more information or to sign up for your next session online, go to www.ipdtransform.com. Namaste. Welcome back. For those of you just joining us, you're listening to The Voice of Yoga, and we are talking consciousness. So, Swami, these two words that we've strung together, divine love, are not two words that are new. It's actually been around for quite some time. And as a matter of fact, I believe it was C.S. Lewis was one that brought it to my attention when he was talking about the Greek words for love. And he mentions agape, which I believe is the way it's pronounced, which means divine love. I'm just wanting to maybe get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, C.S. Lewis, he used 4 different words, like you said, for love. One was storge, which is affection, philia, which is friendship, eros, the love between the sexes, and agape, which is love in the Christian sense, God's love for man and the Christian's love for the brethren. Like the Eskimos have some 70 words for snow. I'm sure love, like we said in the opening, is one of these all-encompassing words that has many different meanings for everybody. The more you start to understand yourself spiritually, the more you start to see this concept of oneness. There is but one life. There is but one mind. From that perspective of oneness, there is only one love. And it is eternal love. It is absolute love. And it's not a love that can be divided into even, say, for example, different categories. This one divine love is a perfect state of being, and it can't be changed.
Swami, I want to get back to demonstrable principle. What makes you say that divine love is a demonstrable principle?
Well, I think I really get this from Mary Baker Eddy in her book, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, on page 411. And I'll read her quote. If spirit or the power of divine love bear witness to the truth, this is the ultimatum. The scientific way in the healing is instantaneous. She's really saying this is a provable principle. It's not just a string of words we academically or intellectually repeat. If we have awareness for this divine love, which means that we've found that place where our thought is the same as the divine idea, and then we surrender to it, we let it express itself through us. Then it reveals itself. When this spiritual light dawns on you, it will resolve things into thoughts and exchange the objects of sense for the divine idea, which means that it will externalize as divine qualities. And even though you are perceiving it through your corporeal senses, it will have the ring of the true metal because there'll be no lack, no limitation, there'll be no sin, sickness, suffering. It will have divine qualities.
I'd like to talk more about divine qualities. We have some verses here from John 15:9-13. I think now might be a good time to maybe talk about some of those. And I'll actually read the first one. John 15:9, as the Father hath loved me, so have I loved you. Continue ye in my love. So we want to make the distinction here, the kind of love that Jesus the Christ is talking about. And could you maybe dig deeper for us with that?
Yeah, again, Jesus was the manifestation of the Christ. So where he says, so have I loved you, or even if you continue further in that chapter, if you go to 10, if ye keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. This is my command, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Again, he makes a distinction between what we would call love on a human level, love that can become anger or hate, love that depends on external reinforcement, love with expectation. That divine love isn't looking for anything. In fact, it is an unconditional giving. And also, it is subjective. It's not an objective state. Jesus is seeing everything from the light of the one divine life, looking at itself, as itself, to itself, in itself. And that is divine love. But it is not love that can become something other than that. It can't change. It's eternal and it's changeless.
So he's kind of laying it out right there. There is this divine love and not that human love that you're just talking about.
Yeah, and this is stuff that we're really working on, learning the difference. If we continue to live from this level of consciousness, we're in this belief in two powers. We're under the law of karma. What we're putting out is what we're getting back. We're in the consciousness or the level of consciousness that makes form out of everything. And so this is a big part of what we're talking about now, is where we want to stop thinking and start knowing. Come out of these modes of mortal thinking, forming thoughts and opinions based on the information coming through our corporeal senses, and start knowing the truth, which is this one divine life.
So Swami, just to wrap up the John 15:9-13, verse 13 is, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Now we might look at that in the mortal way and thinking that, somebody might be thinking that a man laid down his life like stepping in the way of a bullet, for example, but that's not what we're talking about here, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. What we're really talking about is giving up personal sense, giving up the belief in mortal, finite existence.
And if we do that, if we're laying down our life, that will have an effect on other people, meaning our friends. Is that how I'm reading that?
Well, see, that's exactly it. When you give up the belief that you are a finite, material, mortal being and you accept spiritual identity, you do it not just for yourself, but you do it for everyone, because spirit can't be divided. And so what happens is that you're seeing the truth. And because what we're calling reality today is observation dependent, how we think is what we become by you seeing people in the truth of their being. It helps lift them out of the belief that they are a finite mortal creature with an expiration date or has a sense of vulnerability. And we're lifting them completely out of that false belief, which takes you out of all of the conditions that go with that, along with fear. Fear is just a defense mechanism for that false sense of who we think we are.
What is the verse when it says perfect love casts out fear? And this is the fear that you're talking about, I think.
Right. The belief that we are finite, mortal, or vulnerable is dissolved when you accept yourself to be spiritual. You are now the invisible, intangible, eternal self. Swami,
earlier you had mentioned the Mary Baker Eddy's quote from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, and you had said that healing is instantaneous. So how is that relating to this divine love?
Well, I think all healing is just the revealing of the divine creation. And the divine creation is divine love. And so the instantaneous healing, how does that happen? All that's happening is you're taking somebody out of the belief that they're not the eternal spiritual being that they really are. You're breaking the hypnotism, the belief that you are a finite mortal being.
And in preparation for the show today, I went onto the Bible app, the YouVersion Bible app, and I put in the word God and love. And what comes up is from John 3:16-17. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And I thought that was pretty fitting for what we've been talking about. My question for you is, for God so loved the world. Well, we've been talking a lot about this mortal existence and this divine world. So which world is it that he is referring to, that the Bible is referring to?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, God knows nothing about this world. So the world that God created, the divine creation, God loves the divine creation, and he gave his only begotten Son, which now we understand to be the Christ. And the Christ, like we said in the beginning, is the saving aspect of truth. The Christ is what makes the divine creation intelligible to human consciousness. In the divine creation, God makes man and woman. And again, everything is very good. Then, of course, in this secondary creation, which is where I think this world found its origins, God made Adam from the earth, and then he made Eve from the rib of Adam. And so this has more of a material basis, but it is not the divine creation. And it's really our responsibility to figure that out. We have to, again, repent, think differently. And it is the Christ that really gives us this spiritual light that enables us to think differently, that we can now start to cultivate spiritual sense. And we graduate from a belief in the divine creation to a faith in the divine creation. And faith really is when the divine creation is starting to prove its presence to us, until eventually we graduate to understanding. Spiritual understanding is more in sync with what Mary Baker Eddy was saying, that if spirit or the power of divine love bear witness to the truth, and the truth being that there is only one divine life. And if God is all, who am I? Who are you? And so from that level of understanding, the false sense disappears. And now you abide in the truth of being. And one of the things that we've been talking about is living under the influence of our spiritual awareness has benefit.
Well, I do think we'd have to start closing down our show for today. So listeners, be sure to visit the website www.ipdtransform.com. Once you're on the homepage, you see the fading banner, Blog Talk Radio. Just click that. That directs you to the Blog Talk Radio show catalog page. And also by clicking on the products tab, then online classes directs you to the classes that Swami has available. So Swami, any other final thoughts about today's program?
Well, I would like to encourage people to join the Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance, get the light in your soul, and live in the divine creation of love. Namaste.
Thank you for listening to our program, The Voice of Yoga. This is Lisa Winton along with Swami Jayananda signing off. Have a wonderful Kriya Yoga kind of day. Namaste.